Hey, how's it going, everyone? So what am I working on now? Well, I got that Lexus ES300 in the shop. This is that Toyota Camry-based Lexus. And this is the one I did the right front axle on. Well, I'm doing the brakes on it now. And I figured let me give you a quick rundown on what you need to do when you're doing brakes. Hang on one second, I just got a message, hang on. Okay, I was just reading it because it shows up on the screen. So yeah, it's a four-wheel disc brake system. And I just want to show you here real quick. So here, as you see, the pads themselves, they are worn, they're not terrible. But the customer wants to do it because they figured, hey, it's in the shop, let's just get it done. So I was like, okay, we could do that, not a problem. So first and foremost, everything seems to be operating the way it should, but you're going to want to compress that caliper. Let me get a tripod and let me show you what we got to do here. Okay, so for this design, this is not one of the designs that has a parking brake going through the caliper. Those you cannot do this with. Those you need a special tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a C-clamp. It's just a basic C-clamp. It's not is it a Husky? No, it's not. I don't even know where I got this thing from. I've had it for many, many years. But basically, I'm going to compress against the brake pad here, not the outer portion of the caliper. The brake pad and the caliper housing back here. So this way it'll press the pad in and it'll press the caliper out. What this will do also is it'll help tell you, do I have a seized up pin or anything? Now do this gently. You don't have to go bananas when you're doing this. And if you look closely, just some light here, you'll see I'm getting gaps in between as this is compressing. See I'm compressing it there? Seems like it's already bottomed out. I'm trying to do this one-handed so I'm not holding it. So there you see it is coming out. So I just wanted you to see that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get this all the way in as far as it'll go. And like I said, you don't have to go bananas. You don't have to like sit there and really tighten up on anything. If you do, you have a problem. It should compress reasonably easy. All right, so now with that compressed, as you can see, if you grab the caliper, you should be able to move it. That tells you something too. It tells you your upper pin and your lower pin are fine. It means they are removed, they are not seized up. If this thing didn't move, especially with all the gap in there, it'll tell you one is seized. Also, what will happen too is if you have, say, the upper pin seized, the caliper will do this. It'll walk the bottom in a little bit and not the top, telling you that one of them is seized. So then you got to pay attention to that. So let's get this unbolted. Now this has one bolt at the bottom here, but nothing at the top. So now what? Let me show you. So we're gonna crack it free with the box end, like such. Never break them free with the geared ratchet end. You'll break your gear wrenches, or your gear wrenches will not last as long. Gearwrench or Icon or whoever you use, you'll wear them out much quicker. So break them free and then do a final tightening with the fixed box end. If you have a double gear wrench, get yourself a fixed box end to do that, or a socket, ratchet, whatever. But you understand what I'm saying. So now, we got the bolt out, but now you don't want to force this up. Some people I've seen force it up because what's happening is you're stretching the brake hose. So now what we're going to do is we are going to, sorry, I'm just fixing my tripod here. Take the retaining bolt out for the brake hose. Pretty simple. Take it out, because if you look on these, the bracket is slotted. You can pull the hose out. So now, just dropped my gear wrench. Now, simple enough. Now this will come up. You're not damaging the hose. The hose is free. And then you're sliding it off. And if you look, the piston is flat there. Not all the time is the piston going to be flat. Depending on the vehicle, piston might be protruding slightly. So it doesn't necessarily have to be all the way in. You'll know that when you go back together if it needs to be all the way in. So now we're just going to set this to the side. If you need to retain it with a coat hanger, zip tie or whatever, do so, because you don't want it hanging from the brake hose. All right, next step. Pull your pads out. All right. Pads came out pretty simply. You know, not a lot to it to get them out. So with those out of the way, now what we have to do is we have to get the retaining bolts out. There's one down here, and there's one up here. Those are 14s. So let me get a ratchet and get these free. Let me back you up a little bit. And okay. Having a camera in the way sometimes is really a pain. I don't have GoPros or anything like that. Gonna have to invest in those soon. And you want to crack them both free. Don't just take one out and then go crack the other one. Because what will happen is, depending on what the orientation is, like say I took the bottom one out and I went to go crack the top one free, it could take the whole bracket and rotate it, and then you may damage the backing plate. Now luckily, we are in the southeast here, so you don't get a lot of rust. So there you go, the bracket's off. Take a good look at your pin here, make sure that's okay. Everything else looks okay, so we're just gonna put this to the side for right now. And then the rotor comes off. Now, one thing, you pull the rotor off, it's got this rubber plug here. See it? Transfer that to the new rotor. All right, let's stop this video for a second here because I got people coming in. Okay, so the rubber plug is out, sitting right here. I'm going to transfer that to the new rotor. Inspect your parking brake shoes. Yes, these are supposed to be super thin. Certain ones are thicker, but on average they are pretty darn thin because they don't get used other than to hold the vehicle. So now, what I always do in a situation like this, 9 times out of 10 I don't adjust them, you don't have to. Depends on the position of the parking brake. In other words, if the brake is really slack or whatever, then I adjust it. To be honest with you, down here, it's very rare to find somebody that actually uses their parking brake. So, what I do is brake clean. Just to get the dust and stuff out of there. And then we're going to let that dry off. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to unpackage the rotor, and what we're going to do is we got to clean the rotor itself off. Now the rotor itself comes with a coating on there of oil. You want to clean the coating off before you assemble it. Oops, hold on. You want to clean the coating off before you assemble it all because you don't want to get that oil on the new brake pads. So usually all I do is I take a clean, dry paper towel, rag, whatever. Brake clean. Wipe down any braking surface like that. Just get it nice and clean. Hopefully you saw that. And let's assemble this on the vehicle. Then I'll show you a trick. So what you want to do too is you want to put that little plug in the rotor. You could do it later. You don't have to do it now. But let me explain my reasoning for doing it right now. I got gloves on, so it's like I'm having an issue. Hang on 1 second. All right, so now I'm gonna put the rotor on. You have to line that up with the big hole, or even the small hole, it doesn't really matter. But you want to line it up to one of the holes. Reason being is, now it fits flush. If it wasn't, if you had it in the spot where it's not supposed to be, it doesn't fit flush. Here it fits flush, because this is the access hole to adjust the parking brake. So, now with that like that in that position, what I usually will do, and I conveniently have, because I just did the axle, I usually take an axle nut or a large nut, stick it over a stud, and then screw this thing down. Now the reason I do this, and here I'm just centering it on the hub, make sure it's on there flush and correct. The reason I do that, it just makes it easier to install the caliper and bracket and everything else. So let's get to that part of it. One thing I have to do is clean the bracket. Here is the bracket, and all I do is, if I can find where I put it, I just had it. Wire brush. Now you can't scrape it all the way across because this has these tabs on it, but this is all I really do. Yes, the new pads that we got do come with clips. I very rarely will replace the clips. If the clips are in good shape, I will usually leave them. Why is that? Because I've seen it many times with the aftermarket clips, they don't fit exactly right, and the clip itself will touch the rotor. Oops, the clip itself will touch the rotor. It touches the rotor, makes all sorts of squealing noises. These clips fit perfectly. They're the original type clips, at least I think they are, and didn't have an issue before, it's not going to have an issue now. So, just a little cleanup, like so. And then, what we're going to do is, we're going to put a dab of lube on here. And you don't want to go crazy with lube. Let me show you, hang on. Alright, so here is the lube. And you're just going to put a dab on here. And you don't want to go bananas. Now the reason, you're not basting you're not, battering up chicken breasts or anything like that. So you don't want to go absolutely nuts. Just a little bit. A dab goes a long way. Now the reason you don't want to put a whole ton on there is because you don't want to accidentally get it all over the rotor. All right, that's it. That's good enough. That's all you got to do. So now we're going to install this. And as you're installing it, just be mindful. If you wind up getting any of that grease onto the rotor itself, just wipe it off. It's not like you're going to ruin the rotor, but just wipe it off. Now, how do you know if you got grease on it? Very simple. Just rotate the rotor. And once this is bolted down, I'll show you. Like I said, luckily we are in the southeast, so stuff comes apart relatively easy. Up in the north, this car wouldn't even be on the road anymore because it'd be rotted away. Alright, so now just rotate the rotor, and you can see right there, I got a little touch. To be honest with you, I'm just going to wipe it off like that. Wipe it off like that. It'll be fine. Yeah, so let's tighten that up. Go bananas, but just make sure it's tight. And then before you go anywhere, make sure the rotor rotates okay. So now let's get the pads, and then let me explain the pads. All right, so here with the pads, one pad has a tab, the other one does not. The pad for the other side has this tab over here. This is an inner pad. The inner pad, you want this point at the point of first contact on the rotor. What does that even mean? All right, so here we're going to install it. And here we're going to install the outside. Like such. Now the point of first contact, as you can see, the tab is down here. Point of first contact meaning the car's going forward, the rotor's turning in this direction. That's a point of first contact. The reason being is because the pad will always wear slightly more down here. It could be, you know, thousandths and thousandths of an inch, but it's going to wear slightly more down here. So they want this as a point of first contact. So that's a squealer, that'll hit first. So this way, you know you need brakes. That's the only reason for that. All right, so we already know the pin is good, the upper pin. We know the lower pin was good. So now, we're going to install the caliper. Make sure the hose, hang on one second. Make sure the hose is in the correct orientation. In other words, it's not twisted up or bound up or anything. Oops, I actually knocked the pad out. And this is fighting me. Why is this fighting me? Probably because the camera's right in my face. Oh, it's fighting me for some reason. Why is that? That's interesting. Oh, there we go. First you don't succeed, try again. Okay, so now, as you saw, the caliper drops down in place. Remember what I said about the piston being all the way in? Sometimes the piston doesn't go all the way in. Don't worry about it until you try to put the caliper back down in place over the new pads. If it doesn't go all the way down, then compress it. All right, so now we're gonna put the lower bolt in. So basically it's reverse procedure to install. So let me get that bolt in, let me get that tight, and then we're gonna put the line on. All right, so we got the lower bolt in. We are tightening that up. Now, when it gets tight, switch over to the box end, like I said, and tighten it with the box end. And you don't have to go nutty tightening it up. Unnecessary. Why did I tap that on there? Because I jammed up the ratchet. So then just tighten the line up. And again, you don't have to go bananas tightening it. And that's pretty much it. And like I said, the reason for this was just to hold the rotor straight while I assembled everything. Because if the rotor's flopping around, a lot of times you can knock the pads out. And then you got to fight with them to try to get everything back in. This is just like, this is kind of like a third hand. That's all it is. All right, pretty simple. All said, all done. All right, so I just wanted to show you that. I thought that was pretty simple. You know, yes, you can do this in your driveway. Not that difficult. I'm going to leave this video at this for right now. I still got to do the front brakes, but I have something else I got to do first. So this is going to be put on hold for a short period of time. Hopefully you're getting something out of my videos. If you are, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.